Hello, Shabbat Shalom. Have a good Shabbos. I would like to share with you a Dvar Torah, a thought on this week's Torah portion, Parshas Mishpatim. Parshas Mishpatim, yes. This week is Parshas Mishpatim. Parshas Mishpatim talks about the laws, the monetary laws, the Jewish laws regarding monetary possessions, regarding damages, regarding borrowing and lending and negligence and all kinds of other stuff like that. And this Devar Torah, this Devar was inspired on the bus on the way to Richmond, where I participated in the Jewish Advocacy Day with the Jewish Federation of Tidewater and had a wonderful experience. I met lots of wonderful new people and wonderful old people. I mean, like old friends. Not all of them are old. No one's old. Everyone's young at heart, young in spirit. Had a wonderful time. And on the bus, on the way there, I was inspired in a conversation with somebody who I really, really enjoyed sitting next to, who asked a similar question to this, and I'm going to frame it a little differently, but he really got me thinking about this topic. So the typical modern Jew is troubled by certain parts of the Talmud, specifically the parts of the Talmud that discuss these monetary laws. So we have, for example, the tractate Bava Kama, which is famously known as the tractate that discusses when an ox gores another ox, and a cow does this, and all kinds of different things about oxes and cows. And people are like, this is outdated. As someone told me recently, the world has evolved and Judaism has evolved, and we don't need these ancient texts. These ancient texts are outdated and have no relevance to the modern world. And I may say, if I may, that I take great offense to that for many reasons. But for one is that I spent a majority of my life, I guess. Yeah, I think over a majority of my life studying those outdated texts. I spent all my years in yeshiva studying the Talmud. Many of them studying those tractates that they are telling me are not relevant. And I'm like, first of all, that can't be true, because that means I wasted a lot of time. But that's not a good argument, because that's my problem. But the real reason why it's not true is because I understand what it says in the Talmud and why it says it in the Talmud, because I spent so much time studying it. And what I learned and the knowledge that I gained from spending time studying the Talmud enabled me to understand why this is a mistake, why it's a mistake to think that it's outdated. And the question is a really good question, and it's a valid question, and it's a question that's important to be asked. And I'm working on myself not to take it personal, not to be insulted, because it's a really good question, and it's a valid question, and it's applicable in many different areas, not just this area of the Talmud. But since this week's parsha, this week's Torah portion is talking about this area of damaging and of monetary and responsibilities. So I'm going to discuss it from that perspective. So many people think, and I think this is the cause, the root of the error, is that the Talmud is a code of law. It's a practical law. It's where the sages taught us and continue to teach us what we need to do and what we need to refrain from in our daily living to live a life of Torah law. Now, that is an error. It's incorrect. The Talmud was never intended to be practical law. The Talmud, the intention of our sages' intention of writing the Talmud is nothing to do with practical law. It's about setting down the principles. What are the principles of deciding and understanding the laws? The principles, the basis, the core, the the framework, the groundwork, the foundation of where the laws are derived from. So yes, the practicality of the Talmud is ancient and is extinct and is not relevant today, but the foundations and the ideals and the meaning behind those things are ever relevant, and they are very, very practical. So for example, so the reason why the Talmud uses the examples of an ox and a cow and all kinds of other animals is because that was what was relevant at the time. That's what people used at the time. But B, that's the language of the Bible. That's the language of the Torah when the Torah discusses these things. And it's possible that the reason why the Talmud, even if the Talmud was written today, it would be discussing similar things because the principles of the law are based on the words in the Torah, and the words that the Torah uses in the Bible are the examples we're talking about animals causing damage, and therefore even if the Talmud would be written today with all our modern advances, it would still be written in the same way that it was written, however many years ago it was written, 2,000 years ago. And therefore, because the principles don't change, the principles that the Talmud are teaching us are the principles of responsibility, of ownership, of responsibility, of your property, of negligence. These are principles that apply regardless of the details of the subjects. The principles, whether we're talking about cows or we're talking about cars or we're talking about lawn chairs or we're talking about shingles on from your roof or we're talking about anything that you own, any property that you have that causes damage. The question is, how do we deal with that from a Jewish legal perspective? So in the case of the Talmud, where my ox gores your ox and we want to assess damages and assess how much I'm supposed to pay you, right? That's the example that the Torah uses, but that's no different than if you own something, you own a factory, and something in your factory malfunctions and causes damage to one of your employees, right? So from a Torah perspective, are you obligated to pay for those damages, right? You didn't do the damage, your property did the damage. Well, that depends. Were you negligent? Were you not negligent? These are all things that are all discussed in the Talmud with different examples. And in the modern code of law, right, so the Shulchan Aruch brings it down to a certain level, and modern rabbis are able to explain it in the context of modern technological advances, but these things are all ever relevant. So that's the way I understand it, and I hope this makes it clearer and more understandable to you guys. And thank you, David, for inspiring this discussion, this topic. I really appreciated it. I really enjoyed sitting next to you on the bus. And I wish you all a wonderful Shabbos, a wonderful Shabbat, meaningful Shabbat, and a good Chodesh, because today and tomorrow is also Rosh Chodesh Adar, the first Adar. And it's an exciting time because Adar is like, the beginning of, the happy times in the Jewish calendar. So it's definitely a good vibes, positive vibes. We're looking to, have some excitement, and we're really excited. Have a wonderful Shabbat, wonderful week, and a wonderful Chodesh, a good Chodesh. Shabbat Shalom.